I don't think in 2019 O1 was a thing. People knew about it, but I think now it's way more popular. Like O1 is actually awarded to people who are on the top of their field for many, many, many years.
It's really cool about the lawyers. They look at your profile and they just reject you or accept you.
PhD is not a must for O1 or EB1.
You taught me a big lesson that US works on the basis of whatever you want to achieve, you have to ask for it. You ask to the company, can I get an O1 visa? So hello everyone, today it's an honor to have Bala here. I got to know him through his podcast. He had an amazing journey coming to the US and getting O1 visa and then potentially beat the line in which Indians are to wait almost 150 years of getting green card. He did not want to stay in that line. So he found the way to escape it. So hi Bala, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi Harno. That's a really flattering introduction indeed. But yeah, I'm Bala. I'm Bala Krishnan, but everyone calls me Bala. I'm a software engineer based out of the Bay Area. I did a PhD in engineering mechanics from Virginia Tech, specializing in computational mechanics. And I have an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from NIT Jamshedpur.
Oh, nice. So can you share a little bit about your background coming to the US and why you chose for PhD? Because the path of Indians coming to the US is do masters in 1 to 2 years, then get a job. And it's a very straightforward path. Why PhD?
Absolutely. So I had no plans of coming to the US to start off. So I was in my 4th year of undergraduate in NIT, and then just followed the usual course, right? So you sit for placements and so on. So when I was doing my 4th year, I realized that I have color blindness. Okay, so if you are a mechanical engineer with color blindness, it's not a great thing to be, because I don't know, for some strange reason, Indian companies which recruit engineers for mechanical related roles, they usually ask if you're colorblind. I mean, this was the norm in at least the early 2010s. I don't really know if it is the norm still, but like companies like Ashok Leyland, the traditional core companies that you can think of, Ashok Leyland, Tata Motors, and so on, they had this restriction for people with color blindness. So that put a lot of problems when it came to placements. But there was this one company called FMC Technologies. It's now called Technip FMC. They were like, it's okay if you have color blindness. We are a services company, so you can sit for placements. And being a mechanical engineer, there was this thing that, if you studied mechanical engineering, you should work in core, right? So that's usually the norm. Like, if you studied mechanical and went for a software job, people would judge you like, oh, why did you have to study mechanical engineering? But I don't think that should be the case, because everything is multidisciplinary, and as long as you can learn stuff, it should be fine. So I don't really subscribe to that idea. But anyway, so FMC Technologies hired me, and then at that time, they had just set up an office. So we were, I think, the second or the third batch of hirees. And they took us through a training program, and then they sent us over to Houston for like a 10-month rotation program for a particular division within FMC Technologies. So FMC Technologies was this oil and gas services company. So just to give you a bit of context, it did subsea drilling. Not drilling per se, but it used to manufacture components that companies like BP, Shell, Chevron, all these companies used to use to drill oil. So because oil is so big in Houston, I turned out that I came to Houston. And once I came to Houston, I was, that was my first international trip. I had never been anywhere outside India. I never even thought about going anywhere outside India. Like I was, like some of my uncles used to be in Dubai. And every time they came home, I would be like, how is life like in Dubai? And same with one of my aunts who used to live in the US in the 90s. I used to ask her, how is life like and all of that. So there was definitely a fascination of how life is like. But I got a firsthand experience of how Houston is like, how America is like.
Through company, right? So your company sent you on B1, B2 visa. It's common and for trainings, yeah, fair. It could be for like for a meeting, I think.
Good point. So I came on something called as an H3 visa. Okay, so
Oh,
I don't think you can earn on a B1, B2 visa. I think that's more for tourists and you need to go back after 6 months. So this was a 10-month visit. So H3, to give you a bit of context, H3 is a intra-company transfer. So basically, you come for like a trainee program for like a period of 10 months. So you don't earn a salary in the US. So you earn something called as per diem, which is going to take care of your expenses on a daily basis. But you save all the salary that you earn in India. So it's again pretty lucrative for a 21-year-old, right? So they used to
but
give us. Mhm.
yeah, but to add on, like this is very rare, because most of the company misuse and they bring people on B1, B2 and pay them on cash. Many companies do that, especially startups in
No
India.
idea. Wow. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had personally not known anyone come to the US on an H3 visa at that point. But then obviously there were many people from my company who had come to the US on an H3. Not sure if there were too many companies doing that at the time, but yeah. But the good thing was, everything else was taken care of. So we were like two people in an apartment, two-bedroom apartment. It was fully furnished. Houston, Texas is known for having big apartments, right? So we had a huge apartment for ourselves, around like 1,000 square foot, and we had a car. So all of that, the fuel cost, everything was taken care of. So whatever you get was for your expenses like food and whatnot, right? But again, so 10 months in US gave me an idea of how life is like, and I just wanted to explore. And I was working on this peculiar thing in my company called finite element analysis. So again, to viewers who are not familiar with finite element analysis, it's basically simulating physical phenomena in a computer. So I'm sure many people would have heard of computational fluid dynamics. You might have
No.
seen pictures. You might have seen pictures of like crash test or flow of an air around an airfoil, which is the wings of an aircraft, and so on and so forth. So anything that's a physical phenomena. So in olden days, what people used to do was they used to build like a 1:50 prototype and test under similar conditions. Is the wing gonna fracture, or is the vehicle gonna be impacted, and so on. But with the advent of computers, obviously the computational powers increased, and it was easy for people to simulate on the computer with some approximation. So that's what I used to do for the company. But what used to happen was I used to use proprietary software. The common softwares are ANSYS and Abacus and so on. So I used to use them, but I did not know what was going on in the background. How was the software solving such physical phenomena? So I thought I will, delve deep into that. And I was also exploring opportunities in the sense that, how to do a master's and PhD. So it turned out that I actually wrote my GRE here in the US. Like I literally walked 2 blocks and wrote GRE, which was pretty cool, I think. But yeah, so I was debating masters or PhD. I had no idea what it entailed, but so I applied for masters and PhD about the same time, and
So both like in different universities or same university?
so I applied for masters and direct PhD programs in different universities. So not in the same university. I don't know if you can do that. I don't see why not.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, so I applied for masters in universities like Purdue, Carnegie Mellon, Northwestern University. I mean, it was pretty much for the professors. I liked some of their work, and I used to write them. I used to sometimes call them because I had the luxury to, because I was in the US, right? So it was just a local call. So I used to sometimes call them up and be like, hey, I'm in the US, would love to work with you, and so on. So, but yeah, debated between masters and PhD. But I think one of my primary reasons why I chose PhD was uh, I wanted to go to an academic path at that point, and I didn't know what was in store. And I also thought that it was easy on the pocket because coming from a middle class family, this whole idea of having a loan on your back was just too much. And I also had a couple of distant family members who were impacted by the 2008 financial crisis, and they were telling me that, hey, if in US has this hire or fire culture, and they can fire you at any time, and all of that. So somewhere in the back of my head, I had that thing where I wanted to study for free, and it would go easy on my dad's pocket. So that's one of the reasons why I chose PhD.
Very good thought. I believe you chose PhD because you had not thought that you can get fully funded masters as well. Am I right?
That is true, but again, masters, fully funded masters was a possibility. But again, I think we spoke about it as well, right? Fully funded masters in mechanical is quite a rarity. I don't know if things have changed, but definitely at the time, fully funded masters was a rarity. And then none of them actually offered me a TA. So I probably just did not meet the bar, I guess. When you apply, you obviously apply for a fully funded one, but you don't know what you're going to get. So, when your I-20 comes, or when you hear back from the grad school, it was all unfunded. So, probably just didn't meet the bar, I guess.
You're right. For mechanical, it's very unheard of. It's very rare, but people in CS and other concentration related to computer science, it is easy. And now the big question comes. So after PhD, people take 3 routes, as I've heard. Number 1 is research. Number 2 is research for big companies like Facebook, Meta. They have their research parts of their firm. A lot of research and development happens, so they do that. And number 3 is just become an engineer at a company. So which route you took, or maybe there could be another 4th option, which I have not heard of.
Yeah, I think you're right. So these are usually the 3 options. People usually tend to go do a postdoc and then or go work at a national lab, which is, by the way, a lucrative option because you are eligible for cap exempt H1B, just talking from an immigrant perspective. So you don't have to go through the lottery process, and you don't have to really worry about if your H1B is going to be picked or not. So that is a very lucrative route, just to put it out there. But yeah, I mean, I chose the regular engineer route. I wasn't sure what I will be getting into because, again, the job descriptions are very abstract, right? So job description will write research, development, and all of that. But I already knew that my role will not involve writing papers or, applying for patents, which, by the way, is also a lucrative option. For instance, if you join like an FAIR program in Facebook, you will be consistently authoring papers. Or if you become an applied scientist with Amazon, you will be going to conferences, authoring papers, receiving patents. But yeah, I mean, those are definitely the options. But I took the general engineering route.
So to follow up, you got direct PhD admission?
Yeah. So, well, the first time I received my I-20, it was master's. But I was already in conversation with professors, and so I did have the confidence that I will get it converted to PhD once I move to the US. So I moved to the US, and within a couple of days, I could get it converted to PhD. Yeah.
So by the way, dosto, direct PhD is really unheard of. Only people from one of the best schools of India, IITs, get a chance. And even then it's difficult. Which college were you from?
So I went to NIT Jamshedpur. Yeah. But, I actually have seen people get into direct PhD programs. Even otherwise, I don't think the school matters as much. Yeah, I think it's a hit or miss. You have to be in the right place at the right time. Your research goals have to be aligned. So I've met some really smart people from non-IITs, non-NITs, non-BITSians who have ended up doing direct PhD.
That is really new to me, because what I have heard, because, as a research professor, let's say if someone is a research professor, they've never heard of some universities of India. So they try to see your profile from university point of view and your research point of view as well. But that also comes into picture, because it is a pattern that good universities have better research. That patterns connects, but obviously there are some outliers. And we also discussed in your podcast that matching up is like Tinder game. So it's about how much your research and your values resonate with the research professor who's like swiping left or right on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there are lots of universities like, I mean, I can take the example of VIT, who really promote research. Some of the deemed universities in India, the other name I can think of is probably SRM. I'm sure there are many others. But, performing research is not a must, but if you have a decent enough CGPA, and if you have spoken to the professor, sometimes professors also have their own vetting mechanism. Like for instance, they may have a Skype call with you, or Skype is from back in the day, but yeah, Zoom call with you or something, and they will ask you things like, "Hey, why do you want to apply?" So I think that really matters. Your SOP and what you write in your SOP is really kind of the reason why they give you an admit, I think.
Got it. And now, how was your journey after PhD? Which job you picked? And how was your journey finally to O1-VISA? What was the inspiration?
Yeah, so wow, that's going to be a long story, but yeah, after PhD, again, the thing with PhD is you kind of become like a niche person. So it's a double-edged sword, because there are roles for you. If there are roles for you, great. But if there are not many roles for you, then it can be a challenge. And for certain roles, companies don't hire generic positions. Like, to give you an example, right? New grad software engineer at Amazon or at Google. There's going to be like, I don't know, thousands of openings each year. And people with a generic software engineering degree can just apply. And if they meet the bar, raise the bar, they can definitely join. But with PhD, they are looking for someone specific with a specific set of skills. So again, that's kind of an issue, and I want people to keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that you won't be selected for generic roles, because companies like I can speak in terms of software engineering, because I think that's majority of the audience, right? Like Google has a PhD new grad role where they will hire you, they will train you, they will give you good mentors. Facebook has it, all the major fan companies have it. I think Oculus has research scientist positions. Oculus now. Meta, yeah, I think it's called Meta Reality Labs. Yeah, so they have a good mentorship program. So you can also join a generic role and then find your way through it. But yeah, in most cases, it's usually a very niche thing. So yeah, after PhD, I started to apply for roles, apply for computational scientist or computational mechanics roles. So again, like I said, finite element analysis is basically making like physical models, right? Simulating physical phenomena. So companies that do or need that kind of people are very less. So to give you some examples, like Bridgestone, the tire company, will need computational engineers because the tire gets hot, and the material that goes into tire manufacturing is very complicated, right? It's very complex, and how the material behaves when you apply a brake, when there are stresses in the tire, those kind of really niche things is what Bridgestone is looking for. And same with a company like DuPont or 3M, which are chemical companies, right? They want material scientists or computational engineers to simulate how that behaves. So these are few examples. And I got into a company called ASML. So ASML it's actually a very big company, or it's probably the most famous company that you have not heard of. That's what they call ASML. Yeah. So it's a multi-billion-dollar company. It's a monopoly in itself. It is the world's like only company that does extreme ultraviolet light. So to give you a context, extreme ultraviolet light is what companies use to generate really precise semiconductors. So companies like TSMC, companies like Intel, all those guys use it. And because it's not B2C, Intel, you get Intel chips in your computers and you have Qualcomm Snapdragon in your mobile phones. So you've probably heard of it, but ASML supplies machines to those companies, and each machine is like the size of probably half a football field or something, and then it's like $100 million each machine. So that's the company that I joined. And again, ASML had a role for me, which was simulating thermal phenomena, simulating what happens inside a vessel that would eventually produce the extreme ultraviolet light that goes on to produce semiconductor chips. So that's the role I picked up. So it was somewhere between a research engineer and an engineer. I didn't do research, but at the same time, I was working very closely with people in the lab. I was working closely with project managers, and the simulations will drive the design. So if you run a simulation and you find that, hey, something's not going to work, but again, this is all approximation, right? Computer, you approximate certain things, you approximate some boundary conditions and so on. So that was my role. And again, so I graduated and I just went through the usual process, right? So you have your 3-year OPT right after your PhD. So masters and PhD both get the same thing, right? So it's a 3-year OPT. So yeah, I did my first H1B attempt in 2018, actually 2019. That was not successful. I continued in the same company. 2020, I was not successful. 2021, I was not successful. But one good thing that happened with me was my OPT was going to end 7 or 8 months after my last H1B attempt. Okay. So even if it did not go through, I had like a cushion of 7-8 months to plan what my next steps were. So ASML is a Netherlands-based company. So, typically what they do is they send you over to Netherlands and probably bring you back on an L1. But again, I had already authored a few papers during my PhD, and I had not heard about O1-VISA. It was, I like, again, when you're doing your PhD, you kind of hear these things that if you do a PhD, your green card and your immigration is sorted. But
लग ही
again,
जाएगा, ये ऐसा लगता है ना.
हाँ ऐसे ही लगता है. मतलब लोग बोलते रहते हैं, अरे तू PhD कर रहा है, तेरा तो हो जाएगा, तेरा तो सेट है वगैरह. बट तो ये जब सुनते हैं हम लोग, when we hear these things, it's like you don't really dive deep into what is immigration and how are things going to work, because you are already in that rat race of finishing it, right? Because the sooner you finish, the better it is for you. So I was of the attitude that, I'll figure it out later. But, it turned out that it's not all that different for PhDs. You pretty much go through the same route. 3-year OPT, a company applies for H1, and if you hit it, you hit it. If not, if you don't, right? So after the third attempt, I was like, okay. I was talking to my manager. I was telling him that, hey, this is my situation. And managers, I think if you have a manager who is an American, right, born and raised in the US, they don't have, I mean, most of them, I'm not saying everybody, they don't have any idea about immigration or what Indians have to go through to continue working. So my manager was an American, extremely supportive guy, extremely nice guy. But he was like, oh, I thought everyone who got a job at ASML got green cards. Like that was his attitude, not attitude, but like that was his idea about immigration. So
he doesn't know that we are from India. Our wait time is 150 years.
No, because it's not their, like, it's not of interest to them, and they don't need to know, because what is he seeing around them? That a lot of Indians are working, which means that they probably have everything sorted. So then I had to, I mean, and it's also very difficult to explain as well with like, how is this lottery working out and all of that. So I was having some trouble explaining him and making him understand that H1B is a very complicated process with 85,000 slots and all of that. But then I was also talking simultaneously with the immigration folks, letting them know that, hey, what are my options? And what they said was, you can do an EB2 NIW if you're an immigrant. But again, EB2 NIW is EB2. So you are not gonna get it any faster. I'm talking about green card, because EB2, you're in the same pool as any other perm EB2 line. So
Correct.
that was like, but if you're, it's a lucrative option for if someone who is not born in India, right? And they don't get an H1B, but they have a certain amount of papers and citations. Like, let's say you're born in Tunisia or Turkey, then EB2 is a good option because all of their dates are current, right? So just on the side note,
Correct.
it is a good option, but not for Indians. So I told them that EB2 NIW is not going to help my case because I'm still stuck in the same queue. And how about an O1 visa? So a friend of mine had told me that, hey, you have a PhD, you should apply for an O1 visa. And I was like, oh, what's that? So he apparently knew someone in Intel who had gotten O1. And I don't think in 2019 O1 was a thing. Like, people knew about it, but I think now it's way more popular thanks to LinkedIn and lots of people writing books, and people are making others aware that, hey, you can take this route. But I think at the time, at least personally, I had no idea what O1 was. So I told my immigration people, or the people who were handling it for the company, that am I eligible for that? And what they said was, yeah, hey, here is the questionnaire. Just fill it out. So I got a questionnaire, and questionnaire had things. It's a very usual process. So questionnaire had things like, what have you authored? How do you think you have impacted? What are your number of citations, and so on and so forth. So I filled it out, and then at the time I had like 20-30 citations. Not too many, but not too little either. And they were like, O1 is actually awarded to people who are on the top of their field for many years. And we think that like you are not going to get it. So I was like, okay, fine. But then as a second thought, I actually spoke to two other lawyers, independent lawyers. And by the way, a lot of lawyers give free consultation, meaning that you can email them your profile and they will let you know if you are eligible or not, and they don't charge any money for that. So
even the top lawyers, I remember I talked to one of the lawyer for O1. I think I can name, like, I have heard many people talk to them. Victoria Chen is the most popular one.
Yeah. Victoria Chen is popular.
Yeah, she doesn't even take a case if she thinks that like you're not eligible for that green card process or O1 or whatever it is. It's really cool about the lawyers. They look at your profile and they just reject you or accept you, and then start charging.
Yeah, exactly. So you can send them whatever you have, like whatever you have done in life that you think is relevant to your application, and then they will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours and be like, hey, you're good enough or you're not good enough. So a couple of them said, you have a chance, and I was like, okay, so that boosts your confidence a little bit. And I asked my lawyers. Well, actually, I didn't ask my lawyers. I asked the immigration personnel or representative in my company that, hey, can I have a call with the lawyer? And for some reason, they were not ready to do that, and everything had to go through the immigration person. So there was this blocker where it was like email to them, and then they will send an email to the lawyer, and the lawyer will get back, and then the person will send in a quote like, according to the lawyer, you are still not eligible, and so on. So it was quite hectic. I mean, the company was an extremely great company to work for. The team was great. The manager was great. But then this whole, back and forth was quite strenuous, to be honest. And it wasn't working in my favor either. And each time I send them more and more proof about what I've done during my PhD, the answer would be the same. We still think that it's not. And by the way, in the same company, I had actually heard that someone actually got an O1 with 37 citations. And yeah, I don't know why that was the case. Maybe their managers were more supportive, or maybe their managers knew what immigration was like. I don't know the reason. She had left the company by then. So I was not able to communicate as to how it worked out. So yeah, I was ready to leave to the Netherlands, and it was at that time that I got reached out on LinkedIn by this company called Applied Materials, based in the Bay Area, and so this was around like I had like 4 or 5 months left, and they were like, "Hey, we are looking for someone with your experience. Would you like to talk?" So I told them explicitly that, I'm open to talking, but I have this issue where I have to leave the country within a few months if nothing works out. So let's make sure that I am eligible for O1 visa. So let me talk to the lawyers first, or just pass on the message to the lawyer at least, and let them decide if it's worth pursuing, because otherwise will be both wasting our times, right? So I did that. Again, they sent a questionnaire. I filled it out, sent it back to them, and they were like, "Yeah, you can get an O1." And the good thing about this is citations don't go down. Citations always go up, right? Because your research gets explored by others. So 30 will become 35, will become 40, and so on. So along this process, my citations were also increasing, and I had also worked on a couple of papers that I had left, 80% done. Someone else was taking care of it. So I thought, I'll jump into it and work on it during my free time. So I did that as well. So that probably helped. I don't know, but they said that, yeah, you are eligible, and yeah, so they got back to me with materials, and the process was pretty long. So O1 needs you to prove that you are extraordinary. I mean, that's again a loose term.
That's a full form, yeah.
Yeah. But in essence, what O1 is that the official in the USCIS need to get this proof or confidence that you have done work in your field, and that you do deserve an O1. So you need to do whatever it takes for them to get convinced. And one of the routes is, again, you author papers, you author first author papers, and if the papers are widely cited, and what I mean by widely cited is not just in the US,
internationally as well.
Yeah, because they have this word called international acclaim somewhere. So if your papers have been cited by people in China, Europe, Australia, Africa, wherever, so you better have that proof, and you can easily get that on Google Scholar. So Google Scholar, you click on a paper and cited by, it will show you the people who have cited you.
International recognition is definitely important, as you said, Africa, China. So do you think that's the majority of the way you can get O1, or there are other ways as well?
So again, O1 is not a very black and white thing. It's all subjective, and what I mean by subjective is, however you can prove that your work has been internationally recognized is the way to go. So you can do it in multiple ways. So one is the fact that you have garnered a lot of citations across the world. So let's say 100 people in Europe have cited you, and 100 people in the US have cited you. Like, it sort of builds a confidence that, hey, your work is not US related, but it has been used by others as well. So that's number one. Number two is you get vouched through recommendation letters by people of great repute who are in international universities. So let's say someone from an Imperial College in London or Cambridge is writing a letter, and the letter is also written in a way that, hey, I am this, meaning I am the head of the department, and I have 35,000 citations. I'm on the editorial board of these reputed journals. So what that does is it gives the USCIS officer a context that, hey, this person who has done so much work is vouching for this person. So that might be true, right? So you can get it through that. So recommendation letters go a long way. And, for anybody who is planning on applying for an O1, the best way to do it is to get recommendation letters from people who are highly reputed, who have used your work. So that actually adds an extra layer. So let's say someone who is extremely popular or like an expert in his field has said that, hey, this person's contribution in this particular paper was used by students in my group, and that got them to improve efficiency by 5% or something. So that's a huge it leaves a huge mark on the USCIS officers mind that this person is no nonsense. They definitely know what they're doing, and they definitely deserve a visa so that they can continue working in the US. So two
Absolutely.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to give another example. You can reach out to big media companies like CNN, CNBC, or maybe in India it's like ET, Economic Times, NDTV. Like if your work has the expertise to talk to them and get published with your name, that is also really big, because you are telling USCIS that I am big enough that I was able to impact these big channels internationally. So if you have expertise in anything, you can reach out to them and get publicized too. That is also publication, right?
Well, again, it's kind of tricky because if you look at the conditions for O1, and I highly recommend people go to the official USCIS website and read it rather than reading it on someone's LinkedIn page or some law firm's page, because that's the source of truth, right? Everyone is getting their information from there. So highly recommend go check it out. And there is one which says original scientific contribution. That's number one. And then I think, I may be mixing up words here, but it says published stuff in the media about that person. So I think for that, if CNN or, like you said, ET, someone has reported you, that is one aspect of it. But again, there are multiple, I think 8 points, and the more you satisfy, the more you increase your chances.
Absolutely.
So but I know of people who have reached out to I don't know, media marketing companies and all of that. I don't encourage that, but because the article might not have the kind of genuinity it needs. Like they may quote your name here and there, but again, I think if people read it out, they'll be able to make out if you wanted them to publish versus them reaching out to you. So I will never encourage that, but yeah, it's a way that people have followed, and I think some people have found success. So more power to them, I guess.
So we can say that in your case, it was like taxi gateway. You were about to leave the US going to Netherlands. It was like taxi gateway, letter haath mein hai. At the last moment, what you did was you asked the company, rather than just assuming that your case is impossible. You asked. You taught me a big lesson that US works on the basis of whatever you want to achieve, you have to ask for it. You ask for it, you get it. Like you asked for asked to the company, can I get an O1 visa? You asked to 10 to 15 lawyers, am I eligible? When you ask for an opportunity, things become possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another important thing to do is just Google. I mean, it is so powerful. People usually underestimate, and people usually just go on and ask others. And when you ask others, I feel like there is so much lost in translation, because they will tell half of what they know or what they have heard. Like for instance, I was talking about how while doing PhD, I could just hear that PhD, your immigration is sorted, right? But I never went and checked it out myself. So I would highly recommend that people look it up and read laws and USCIS website. And it doesn't take much, and it's very explicitly mentioned. It's all clear cut mentioned. But yeah, I mean, if you don't want to read, just consult a lawyer. But again, I don't think nothing can beat the actual government statement, right? I mean,
absolutely. So now with O1, I believe green card is sorted. So how is your process for green card look like?
Yeah, but again, I have to add this, that O1 does not guarantee an EB1, but again, it is a step. So according to USCIS, just because you have an O1 does not mean that you are going to be freely given out an EB1. So just want to put that on the side. But yeah, so right now, I applied for an EB1 I-140 last year, got it approved, and then at that time it was current, meaning you could apply for 485 right away. So I applied for 485 right away, but then within a few months there was some retrogression due to huge number of EB1C applicants. So So what they do is they give you an EAD card and an advance parole document. So with EAD card, what you can do is you are free to work for any employer without restriction, and AP lets you go in and out of the country. So that's the current state right now. I mean, but however, I still have my O1. I can move to EAD if I want to, but I'm currently on an O1 visa. But yeah, if let's say I get laid off or something, I can still be in this country with EAD and still go in and out using the advance parole.
So it's basically like green card, but the difference is you cannot go to Canada or Mexico with it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I don't actually know. So if you have a green card, you don't need advance parole, right? You can just use your green card
to come travel.
Yeah. So I mean, this does have like one or two layers, but I think if you purely speak about privilege of a green card versus privilege of an EAD plus AP, I think the privileges are pretty much similar, except like you said, you can't just take a flight and go to Mexico or take a flight and go to Canada. So that's pretty much it.
Got it. So you still have your O1 visa, which you can use to go to Mexico and Canada.
Yeah, definitely. So O1, like as long as I'm on an O1 with a valid, end date, which is beyond the date that I come back to the US, I can definitely come back to the US.
Yeah. So that was an incredible journey. Now you have freedom to change jobs. So where do you work right now? And what do you think about how your PhD is helping you create impact in your work?
So I currently work for Amazon. And to start off, I don't work on anything related to my PhD. So let me put it out there. But again, as times change, we also need to evolve. And I don't think. I think one thing PhD teaches you is it teaches you to learn. So regardless of what you do your PhD in, I think it's if you have a good math background and if you have done a bit of coding. I don't think anything is impossible. So I'm currently working on, developing tools that will enable, data that comes in from Amazon factories, which manufacture our devices, and we usually just play around with the data and learn more about how we can make it more efficient, optimize and cut costs, because it's one of the main things that Amazon does. It definitely stresses on frugality. So how can we do more with less without compromising on quality? So I use data that comes in from our factories in China to make sure we get the best bang for our buck.
Very well. So that was very inspiring. I got to learn a lot from you. Nothing is impossible. You may think that with 20-30 publications it's impossible. You may think that just with your normal engineering journey, if you're an engineer, you cannot get out of that rat race of 150 years to get green card. Things are possible if you ask the right questions from the right people. Everything is possible. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I have to also add that PhD is not a must for O1 or EB1. If you have done, a lot of people have done incredible amount of research in their undergrad as well. People have done internships they have gotten DART scholarships in Germany. Some of them have come to the US for an internship, and they have done like 2-3 months of really impactful work, and they have published papers. And if you have done that, make sure that you keep track of those papers, and then it may come in handy when you're applying for an O1. So even in your masters, if you have a thesis based masters, make sure that your thesis is out there. You do that 20%, 30% extra work and make sure it gets published in a very good journal. Make sure that the impact factor of the journal is high enough so that people cite you, people note you, and that will go a long way when you go for these applications. Absolutely. And start early. That's the key. Yeah, always start early, be it job application, be it college application, because you're giving yourself the room for a mistake, right? If it's something like getting to a bus stop, if you go at 8:55 for a 9 a.m., at that time the elevator won't work or something will happen. So you give that bit of a cushion so that you can get back on your feet even if you do make a mistake. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bala. Thank you so much for sharing in-depth knowledge about O1-VISA. It was a very inspiring journey once again. And please don't forget to check out his channel, his podcast. he shares very valuable information there as well. And he is very humble to, agree with this, agree for his personal visa journey, which many people are not comfortable to share.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot, Harnoor, for offering me to be a guest on your show. I mean, I love your content, and you definitely make sure that you add value with whatever you produce, not just entertaining all of us, but you definitely add value. So keep on rocking, continuing with your YouTube journey, and yeah.
Thank you so much.